Hey everyone, welcome back to Design, Create, Inspire. Last week I talked all about my business journey story, I guess. Basically, how I got to where I am today, what steps I took, and just a little bit about my thoughts on the process of starting a business. So today I want to talk about some tips on what you can do if you want to start a business. So this is pretty much to start a design business. It doesn't necessarily have to be specifically architecture. I'll say some things that are a little more specific to architecture, but it could be really any type of business. I would say more so service industry because other types of businesses are a little different. Um, so I'm going to keep it kind of specific, but they're all still good tools that you can take with you if you want to either start thinking about starting a business or even things that you can do today that can basically get you in business pretty much today. So I'm going to keep this fairly brief. I don't want to totally talk your ear off, but if you want to hear more about my story, who I am, where I am now, and how I got there, go back to last week's episode and I go all into that. So I'm just going to start. Let's just break it down. Get out your pencil if you want. I think this is, information I would have wanted to hear of, like, what can I seriously, like, physically do this moment. So the very first thing is develop your brand. So you can start brainstorming basically what your company's name is going to be, what your logo is going to be, what your aesthetic is going to be. So I like to do this in a couple different ways. First, I like to think of who my ideal client is. So, obviously, that is the type of person that we are trying to target. That's who we want to market ourselves for, not necessarily ourselves, unless yourself is your ideal target, because your ideal target might have different aesthetics or different needs than you do. So, first, figure out in order to develop your brand, first figure out who your ideal client is and then work on building your brand to that client. So, like for example, for me, I knew my ideal client. I mean, I have a whole other episode all deep into this. I'm going to keep it real basic. I'm just going to say my ideal client is someone who cares about sustainability, efficiency, and um, aesthetics in a way that are timeless and less is more, not someone who just wants something big and trendy. So I have developed my brand to be um, my fonts I use, the colors I use are more natural. They're very efficient. I use a lot of sans serif fonts. I use greens and blacks and whites. And these are all conscious decisions that I've made in the very beginning of who my client is. Sustainability has always been at the forefront of my designs, and so I wanted that to show through some of my branding, even if it was just as simple as the color green. So when you're developing your brand, it's really easy to look at what's currently trendy. I think this is a good way to do it if your target market is like, I don't know, what is it, Gen Z or whatever, like a younger audience, someone who's really cares about trends, but you have to be careful with that because that is going to pivot quickly. Trends are cyclical, they don't last very long. Um, Especially like with colors. I mean, there's a new color every year. And so I would stick with something that is not necessarily just because it's of the trend. I would go with something a little bit deeper than that. Um, Other things are like the name, and there's a whole, the name of your company, there's a whole thought process, I guess you can say, that goes into creating a name. With architecture, there's certain rules and regulations with what your name is. If you use some sort of your actual name in your branding, then you don't have to worry about trademarking because that is your name. So, for example, for me, I'm like, okay, well, I could use my name for my company, and then I don't have to go through all this extra work. So, BYoung Design came naturally for me. I still grapple with the fact that there's not the word architecture in there, and I've thought about like, do I rebrand it to BYoung Architecture? But these are all thoughts that you need to kind of consider when you're developing your brand. If it's something generic like modern design, that's something you're going to have to do a little bit more research on, a little bit more trademark, legal work, fictitious name statements, that whole thing. So these are all just things to think about when you're developing your brand. Pinterest is great for looking at like color branding boards where you can look at different fonts, different colors, and just get an overall aesthetic. And you really want to do this from day one because you want to start building everything around this. You want everything to feel very cohesive. So your Instagram, your documents that you're putting together, all these things you're going to want to go back to that original brand so that everything feels like it's from you. So even if I send out like a contract to a client, because of the fonts I use, because of the margins I use, the branding, the way my logo is, it's obvious. Even if my logo wasn't there, it should be fairly obvious that it's a contract from my office. So something to think about. You can start doing it immediately. The second thing is, and this is specific for architecture, is what's your ideal project? So what types of projects do you want to be working on? And start creating your portfolio, whether that's your website, your Instagram, your TikTok, whatever it is, start basing those on these types of projects. So, say you're just starting out, you don't have any projects that you can physically show. You can do inspiration photos. Make sure you always give credit to wherever that inspiration photo is coming from. You can also do renderings or concept photos, sketches, anything that shows your aesthetic, what type of designs you like, what your type of design will be like, because then the clients can attract to you, and those are who you want to have come. So I think that starting a website very, very, very early on doesn't hurt. I started my website even in school, and I would just put my school projects on there, and I would constantly update it, because what that does is you start every time you go on there and you add on new designs, you elevate the website more by fine tuning it. So I use Wix, other people use Squarespace. I know a lot of people prefer Squarespace. I love Wix and it's been great for me. You can do like AI type websites where they set it up really well for you. I prefer the custom just because I'm already in design, so I like being able to customize it a little bit more fine-tuned, but it's such a good way to start, especially if you're a student, because if you're putting together this website, you can now send this as a portfolio to prospective employers, prospective clients, all that. So it doesn't hurt. So figure out your ideal project and then start documenting that where people can find it, and eventually people can use that as a source to hire you. So the third thing is a business plan. So I love Entree Architect's 60-minute business plan. So if you don't know, Entree Architect is a podcast, a Facebook group, a website. It's tons of things. Definitely check that out. I'm not sure if they're on YouTube or not, but definitely go on and listen to their podcast. And it's episode, let me see, I have it here, 187. So, episode 187 of the Entree Architect podcast has a 60-minute business plan for small firm architects. Again, this is architecture, but you probably could use this for even another business because I took business classes in undergrad and it's a similar structure essentially to set up a business plan. And I love the way that this is set up because it's 60 minutes. You could sit down and do it, and it just helps you think about what exactly you want for your business. So it's a great way to start. I personally go through my business plan I try to do it every year. Sometimes it ends up every couple of years, and I start fine tuning it. It helps with figuring out um, like revenue or what I need to be charging. It helps figure out where I am. I also love it because I can go back and I can see what my business plan was 2 years ago and what my goals were and where I am now. And I can see, oh, there's certain areas that I still need to kind of work on, or I'm almost at that point, or, oh, yeah, I forgot that that was a goal of mine. I can make that happen. Let's do it. So it's really motivating, helps keep you on track. It helps give you kind of a framework or like a blueprint of what to do or like where do you even start. So when I first started, I made a 10-year plan, and then every few years I would go back. And this was kind of like um I guess the first 10-year plan wasn't a full-on business plan because I didn't have like financials in it, but it was a way for me to go back and revise it and write out what actually happened versus you know what I wanted, and it's really inspiring to see the progress. I do that with all of my goals, or all of my like 10-year, yeah, basically goals. And I highly recommend it, and you can just do that even part of the business plan. You can also do it, as a smaller version. You could do like a big business plan or like a 60-minute business plan type thing, and then a smaller version, like just bullet points. And I'm a firm believer that once you put it out there, like you write it down, you think about it, that it happens. I think that there's just this, I don't know, there's something about even just writing it down as a goal. You're setting it out there as an intention, and you subconsciously or maybe even consciously start working towards that goal. And it's seriously like the most simple but most powerful way to grow your business. So definitely sit down. And again, you can start this literally right after you're done watching this, because even if you haven't even if you can't answer some of the questions like what are all your business expenses and stuff, you can just start getting an idea, um, and start just like filtering out those concepts to start building that business framework. So the fourth thing is the legal logistics. So this is different, of course, with every business. For architecture, um, there are a lot more legal logistics. If you are a emerging architect, so you're not licensed yet, you are in the process and you want to open a design business. That's what I did. I opened as a residential designer before I was licensed. You just have to make sure you're adhering to all the legal requirements. You can never hold yourself out as an architect or an architectural designer. You can't say you provide architectural services. You have to make it very clear. I even would have it in my contracts that the client is aware that I am not a licensed architect, and then I had it in the provision, the California code that showed what I was legally allowed to design. So I really wanted to make that very clear because I never wanted to feel, well, first of all, I wanted to adhere to the law, but I also never wanted to feel like I was being sneaky, even if like I had said it and I would never like use the word architect. I never wanted to feel like I was being sneaky about it. I always wanted to be very transparent. So it's important to be very transparent about this. And it's one of the legal requirements that you have to be aware of. The other things are like your business license. So this is for anybody starting a business. This is the easiest thing literally in the world. Go on your city's website and apply for a business license. I think it's like, I don't know, 35 bucks or something. Maybe it's more, but I think it's something really cheap. And they'll give you your information. Oh, this is for a sole proprietor. So if you're just starting out, especially like as a designer, there's no need to apply for much else than just a sole proprietor to start. It's easy. You can do it yourself. Um, of course, it'd be ideal to have a lawyer look over your contracts and that sort of thing. But when you're first starting out, you don't have a ton of excess money to start. You want to start off lean. So starting out with a sole proprietorship, working on contracts that there's so many resources out there. So you can look at the AIA for contracts. There's other architects that give out their contractual language. This is something that I've been thinking about is possibly providing this as a resource. When I was doing my course this last fall, it was something that was part of the course was setting up the contracts. So if this is something that you are interested in, let me know because I would love to help you guys out. So, and if there's, I've been developing my contract for the last 6 years basically, and it's ever evolving, and situations come up at a project, and I realize that there's something I should add or edit in my contract. So it's been pretty well developed over time. So, again, if this is something you're interested in, leave a comment or shoot me an email or something, and I can figure out how I can start offering that as a resource for you. Again, if you're just starting out, go online. You can search architectural contracts or design contracts, but again, having a lawyer review it, of course, is your safest bet. And I do want to say with that, always, 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 always have a contract set up, even if it's with your sister. If the project is your sister's bathroom, do a contract. And I know it seems so weird and almost like awkward at first, like, oh, I don't know, that's like kind of weird to put it together a contract. Don't feel weird about it. It sets up the expectations. It shows you are a professional. They'll value you as the professional that you are. And it saves your butt because you never know, even if it's a friend or a family member, things happen. So, yeah, get a contract. So there's other, legal logistics too, but that's kind of brushing the surface of what I'm going to go over. The fifth thing is the toolkit. So your toolkit, basically. So start developing this. Now, what this looks like is this is like your proposals, your contracts, your invoices, your emails, all of these things that you will be sending out to clients. And this is where going back to your brand comes in, because this is where you want everything to be very cohesive. Use the same fonts, use the same colors, use the same overall aesthetic. Now, obviously, they all have different content, but you want them to be cohesive, just like you would see as like a stationery set. A stationery set is going to have like a business card, all these things, and you see some cohesiveness along them. With this said, your toolkit is going to develop as you go. It's really, really time consuming in the beginning to get all of these developed because it's a lot of research. It's a lot of, okay, well, what even goes in a proposal? What should I even include? Again, what goes in a contract? What should my invoices look like? All of these things come with time, and it's okay to be figuring out as they go. I remember the first project that I submitted a proposal on, it took me so many hours just to set all that up. And I'm like, I wanted it to look really good and professional too. So it took time to put all that together. But then the next project was less time because I was refining that, and then I was refining that. So now I have a pretty good system. I'm still refining it every single day, but now um, I have really good templates that can streamline my process. You don't want to be redoing those every time. That would be super inefficient. So you want to set up these strategies so that it makes your life easier. Once you bring people on, it makes their life easier because you can send them templates. So this is all part of your toolkit. So again, this is part of your toolkit is like your workflow and your systems and everything. And don't feel overwhelmed about getting it perfect right from the beginning. Just have this in your back, like in the back of your mind, like that you'll need all these things, and then you can start developing them. Um, Again, this is something that I included in my course during the fall is like a basic set of resources like proposals and contracts and templates and whatnot, because they are super valuable. I mean, the amount of hours I've spent developing them, mine are, it's pretty invaluable. So, um, again, if that's maybe a resource that you guys are interested in, I can figure out how to make that happen. But I would just need to make sure that you guys are, there's enough of you interested. So if so, again, leave a comment or send me a message or something and we'll figure that out. Okay, the last thing, if you want to start your business today, is just spread the word. Start talking about it. It's amazing how when you start talking about things start coming to you. Like you tell one person, and that person's neighbor's sister's friend's boyfriend happens to be wanting to add an addition. And if you don't talk about it, nobody's ever going to know that that's what you are doing. You just never know who is looking to do what. So just start putting it out there. And I think at first it can feel a little uncomfortable, like you're maybe a little embarrassed or you don't have it perfected yet. It doesn't have to be perfected. You could even say, "Oh yeah, I've been doing this. I'm actually thinking of going off on my own now. I'm starting it up." You can let them know, like, "I'm starting up," because you'll maybe have people like, "Oh, here's the thing too." I was gonna say, "Oh, like maybe, I've been wanting to redo my bathroom." People will know too, since you're just starting out. Your prices are probably a little less, so maybe they're thinking, "Oh, good, I should get in now before this person's famous or whatever," and get in there now and get great pricing. So don't be afraid of getting started and getting yourself out there. I know it's intimidating a little bit at first, but just do it. Who cares what anyone says or thinks? You will be so happy once you do. Okay, that is it. But before I go, last thing I want to leave you with is try not to compare yourself to other businesses, especially businesses that have been in business for years. It is really easy to compare yourself. I mean, life is all about that. It's easy, especially with social media, it's easy to compare yourself to an account that has 1,000 followers and you have 500, or account that has 10,000 followers and you have 2,000. It's easy to see these projects that other designers or architects are working on and compare yourself or judge it. But this judgment or comparison can be really detrimental to your success, especially if it makes you want to give up or quit. So don't compare yourself. Use businesses that you respect, or profiles or Instagrams or anything like that that you respect as a goal and as a case study. So use them as ways to learn and see what they're doing and what you like about what they're doing, and how you can work towards what they're doing. But don't use it as a comparison or a way to make you feel down in any way. Someone who's been in business for years has put countless hours behind the scene getting to where they are. and know that slow growth is sustainable, and one day you're going to be that person that people are looking up to and wanting to be at your um, level or rate of success. So again, use other businesses for inspiration. Don't use them as a comparison. And I promise you that it will make you so much more happier and more successful in the long run. So that is all I have for you today. I hope that was helpful and valuable. Let me know if you are using any of this. Let me know if you developed your brand identity today, or if you listened to Entree Architect's 60-minute business plan. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you are wanting to start a business today, let me know. Leave me a comment. Okay, guys, have a beautiful day. Bye.